The slap landed at 2:47 in the afternoon. 8th floor, Nwachanemelu Group, Admiralty Way, Lekki. The mop handle hit the tiles and rolled until it stopped against a chair leg. 41 people stopped typing at once. Not one of them stood up. Then the fire doors opened. Not for fire. Men who had never been seen inside that building came in walking fast. 3 weeks before that afternoon, a driver named Emeka went down in a car park. Hard sun, 10 past 1. Managers stepped over his legs to reach their cooled cars. The cleaner in the oversized gray uniform stayed with him for 50 minutes on hot concrete. She spent 2,300 naira she did not have. Here is what nobody on that floor knew. The camera in the corner of the 8th floor fed a screen in a quiet house in Ikoyi. Someone had been watching every single day. So why did she never once report anybody? And who was sitting on the other side of that screen? Stay with me. The small things come first. I want to tell you about 7 months, about a girl, a mop, and a pair of rubber boots that cost 6,500 naira. Some stories you have to walk into slowly, the way you walk into cold water. This is one of those. If you like stories where quiet people are finally seen, tap subscribe. It helps me keep telling them. 7 months earlier, the alarm went off at 4:40 in the morning. The room was in Agunji, one window, one ceiling fan that turned when NEPA agreed. Ihuoma paid 6,000 naira for her half of it. Her roommate Blessing paid the other half and worked nights at a pharmacy, so they almost never saw each other awake. Ihuoma sat up in the dark and put her feet on the floor. She always drank her water warm, never cold, not even in April. She poured half a cup from the flask and stood there in the dark, sipping, listening to a generator 2 houses down. Then she put on the uniform. Gray, 2 sizes too big. She rolled the sleeves twice and tied the waist with a strip of cloth so it did not swallow her. The Danfo at Chevron Roundabout cost 400 naira and left at 10 to 6. If she missed it, the next one cost 400 and got her there late, and late cost more than 400. She never missed it. At the gate on Admiralty Way, Mama Nkem sold akara from a covered basin before her shift started. 250 naira for 4. Pure water, 100. "You're thin," Mama Nkem said. "I'm fine." Thin people say that. Mama Nkem dropped a 5th ball in the nylon. "Free of charge. Don't tell anybody." Ihuoma smiled. "You said that yesterday. And I lied yesterday too." Mama Nkem was 54. She had been cleaning that building since it was 3 floors and a hole in the ground. She ran the ground floor storeroom like a kitchen. Dettol on the left shelf, Morning Fresh on the right, a small radio on top of a bucket, and a mop she named Barrister, because she said it argued with every floor. Ihuoma's own shoes were canvas, white once. The chemical had eaten the sides open, and the skin along the outer edge of both feet had gone hard and then raw. By 6 in the evening, she walked on the outside of her feet without meaning to. There were rubber boots at Ladipo, 6,500 naira. She had seen them once and thought about them more than she wanted to admit. Inside her mattress, in a knotted nylon bag, she had 2,100 naira. Her salary was 38,000 naira a month, paid late by a company she did not work for. The name on the payslip was Anosike Facility Support Limited. The name on her own file was Okoli, her mother's name. Nobody in that building knew who she was. That was the entire point. 8th floor today, Mama Nkem said, handing her a bucket. "The good floor." "Why is it good?" "Because the toilets are clean before you reach them. Rich people hold themselves better." Mama Nkem laughed at her own joke and then stopped laughing. "Small warning, don't talk on 8. "Not at all?" "Not at all. There's a man there." Ihuoma took the bucket up. The 8th floor smelled like cold air and printer toner. glass on 3 sides. In December, the Harmattan dust would settle on that glass in a gray film that took 2 passes to lift. In June, the rain would hit it so hard, the whole floor sounded like a drum. She started at the far corner, the way she had been taught, and worked backwards so she never walked on wet tile. Nobody greeted her. 41 desks. She counted them while she worked, because she counted things without deciding. Her mother used to send her to the market to test it. Her mother had been dead since 2011. At 1:10, 3 weeks later, a man went down in the car park. Ihuoma was emptying a bin near the ramp when she heard the sound. Not a shout, a soft, heavy sound, like a bag of rice set down badly. Uncle Emeka was 61 and had driven for the company for 19 years. He was on his knees between 2 cars with one hand flat on the concrete. "Sir, I'm coming. I'm coming. Give me 1 minute." "You're not coming anywhere." A manager passed, then another. The second one stepped over Emeka's leg to reach his door, got in, and reversed out. A woman in a cream jacket walked around the front of the car with her phone at her ear and did not lower it. 6 people crossed that car park in 4 minutes. 6 people looked away. Ihuoma knelt on the concrete, and it burned through her uniform at the knee. "Look at me," she said. "What's your name?" "Emeka." "Emeka what?" "Emeka Obiora." "Why?" "Because if you can argue, you can breathe." She pulled a cardboard file from the bin she had just emptied and started fanning him. "How long since you ate?" He did not answer. "Uncle, how long?" "Yesterday." 50 minutes. That is how long she stayed there. She sent for water. She spent 1,300 naira on a keke to carry a message to his wife in Ilasan, and 1,000 naira on airtime because his phone was dead and hers was almost. 2,300 naira, gone in the time it took the concrete to bruise both her knees. At some point, he looked at her properly. "You have a face I know," he said. Her hands went still, just for a moment. "There was a woman I used to drive. Long time. 2009, 2010. You have her mouth." "All Anambra girls have the same mouth," Ihuoma said. He laughed weakly. "My glasses broke in March. Maybe that's it." He let it go. He let it go because his eyes had been failing for 2 years and he had stopped trusting them. She let out a breath she had not known she was holding. 1 sentence more and it would have been over on day 9. The next morning, there was a paper on the storeroom shelf with her name on it. "Section abandonment, 5,000 naira." "For what?" she said. Mama and Kem did not look up from the bucket. "For leaving your section." A man was on the ground. "That is not a section." "Who signed this?" "You know who signed it." Ihuoma held the paper in both hands. 2,100 naira in a mattress in Agunji, minus 2,300 spent, minus 5,000 fined. The boots moved further away than they had ever been. She could have ended it in 90 seconds. 1 call, 1 name spoken out loud, and every fine in that building would have burned. But if she said the name, she would never learn the answer she came for, and the answer was the only thing she wanted. So she folded the paper small and put it in her pocket, and that was the first page of something. Let me stop here for 1 second and tell you what that fine cost her, because the story will not tell you again. It cost her 4 months of saving that had not started yet. 6:10 in the morning, the car park was empty and cool, and Emeka was back at work with his years intact and a new pair of glasses he had bought with his own money. "Come," he said, "you will drive." "I can't drive." "That's why you will drive." He put her in a Hilux and made her reverse it towards 2 bollards. Slowly, slowly, slow, ah! The bumper touched the bollard with a small, dull sound. "That is 100 naira." "For what?" "For the bollard's suffering." He put out his hand. She put 100 naira in it, and he folded it and put it in his shirt pocket like a serious man banking serious money. She laughed until she had to sit down on the step. Ifoma was 19 and 7 months pregnant and had been on the cleaning roster for 5 weeks. She used the wrong chemical on the boardroom carpet. Ihuoma found her at 7 in the evening, standing over a pale stripe 2 meters long, holding the bottle with both hands, crying without making any sound at all. "They will write my name," Ifoma said. "Maybe. If they write my name, I'm finished. My mother is finished." Ihuoma crouched and put 2 fingers on the carpet. "Still damp. Go home." "I can't go home." "Go home and come back at 6. Ihuoma took the bottle out of her hands. "And bring bread." She stayed 3 nights. By hand, on her knees, with a brush and warm water and a rag, drawing the color back across the pale stripe until the join disappeared. Unpaid. Nobody signed her in. Nobody signed her out. On the 3rd night, she fell asleep sitting against the boardroom wall and woke at 4 with her neck locked. The name never reached the 8th floor. Ifeoma brought the bread every morning. She never once asked how it was fixed because she was 19 and terrified, and Ihuoma let her not ask. On Sunday, Mama and Kem cooked in the storeroom. Jollof in an old Blue Band tin, still warm, wrapped in newspaper. The radio was on. Somebody's cousin was calling in to greet the whole of Aja. "Fold this," Mama Enkem said, throwing a fitted sheet at Ihuoma. 100 naira if you fold it flat." "That's not possible." "So you agree you owe me 100 naira." Ihuoma tried. It came out like a bad chapter of a book. Mama and Kem folded it flat in 9 seconds without looking. "How?" "My first husband had 1 shoe, 1 good shoe and 1 that was talking. Every morning he polished the good one and put the bad one under the table. He said, if a man's problems are under the table, a woman can still set the table." She shrugged. "I learned to fold things so nobody sees the corners." "Where is he now?" "Under the ground in Nsuka, and still owing me 100 naira. That was the week Amarachi lent Ihuoma a phone charger. Amarachi was 26, sat at reception, and had the smoothest voice in the whole building. She lent the charger. She asked about Ihuoma's roommate. She said the 8th floor was a wicked place and somebody should do something. Then on Thursday, Mr. Anosuke walked through reception, and Amarachi looked straight through Ihuoma as if she were a wall with a bucket beside it. She never said sorry. She just started again on Friday, warmly, as if Thursday had not happened. One evening in the storeroom, Amarachi saw the phone. It was on the shelf, black, heavy, expensive, with a crack running corner to corner across the screen. Whose is this?" Ihuoma picked it up. "My mother's." "Your mother had this kind of phone?" "She had it for 2 years. Then she died, and I kept it." Amarachi's face softened all the way down. "Sorry, sorry." She believed it completely. And why not? A broken screen is a dead woman's phone. Nobody looks at a broken screen and thinks of money. St. Gerard's Clinic in Aja wanted 25,000 naira before they would book a delivery. Ifeoma found out on Tuesday. She did not cry that time. She just sat on the storeroom floor with her back very straight and said the number twice like a person testing whether a word was real. 25,000. "I heard you. Where will 25,000 come from?" Ihuoma went out to the gate and stood in the road for a while. 2,100, then nothing, then a fine, then a slow crawl back to 26,400 over 4 months of not buying anything, not once, not even the second akata. Do you know what it feels like to have a thing in your hand and know you are about to put it down? She paid the 25,000 at the clinic desk on Wednesday morning and asked the woman not to write who paid it. Somebody must sign. Write Nkem. Is that your name? Write Nkem and God will sort out the spelling. She had 1,400 naira left. Transport for the week was 3,200. So for 2 nights, she slept in the storeroom on flattened cartons behind the shelf and told Mama and Kem she was avoiding the rain. "It is not raining. It will rain." Mama and Kem looked at her for a long moment and then turned the radio up and did not ask again. That was her flaw, if you want to know it. She would rather sleep on cardboard than say the words, "I need help." Pride is a quiet sin. It does not look like a sin from inside. Ifeoma thanked Mama and Kem for the 25,000 naira for 4 straight days. Mama and Kem let her. In the second week of June, the generator died. It was 10 past 8 at night. The rain had been coming down since 5, the hard kind, the kind that turns Admiralty Way into a slow brown river. Then the lights went out floor by floor, and the building made a sound it never made in the daytime. Nothing. "Take this," Mama and Kem said, and pushed a candle into her hand. "8th floor, windows are open. If the rain enters that floor tonight, they will find all of us." The stairwell smelled of wet cement. Ihuoma counted the landings, 8 flights, and came out on a floor with no light in it at all. She closed 2 windows. Then she saw the archive room door standing open. Nobody went in there after 7. It held boxes, old files, a broken fax machine, and 100 years of dust. And in the corner, under a plastic sheet, a wooden bench. Not office furniture. A bench. Rough wood, 3 planks, the legs worn pale at the bottom the way wood wears when it has stood on concrete for a long time. She lifted the plastic off it and set the candle on the floor. The seat had a dip in the middle, on the left side, where somebody had sat 10,000 times. She ran her hand under it, the way you check a thing you already love. There were letters scratched into the underside with a nail. N.O. 1994. Ihuoma sat down on the bench. Outside the glass, Lekki went on burning in the rain. 10,000 small lights, some of them moving. The water came across the window in sheets and dragged the whole city sideways and let it come back. No sound in the room but rain and a candle that did not flicker because there was no wind at all. She did not move for a long time. Her mother's name was Naoma Okoli. In 1994, Naoma Okoli swept the office of a 2-room tile shop on Ujwe Legba Road. There was a bench outside the back door where she ate. That was the whole beginning of everything on Admiralty Way, and there was not one photograph of it anywhere in the building. Her mother had told her about that shop exactly twice. Once when Ihuoma was 9, once in a hospital bed in 2011 at night when she thought she was talking to somebody else. And in both tellings, there was not a single person in that story who had been kind to her. Not one. Not once. Not in 3 years of sweeping. So the girl grew up and got a degree and signed documents with a hand that was now holding a candle. And then she came here with her mother's surname and asked one question with her whole body. Has this place changed? She blew out the candle and went down 8 flights in the dark. Inikoi, in a study with louvered blinds, an old man was watching her do it. The screen was a Panasonic monitor, older than the house, propped on 2 board files because the stand had broken years ago. Gray picture, no sound. The 8th floor corner camera, the one the maintenance file listed as faulty since 2023. The maintenance file was wrong. Chief Ndobusi Nwachinemelu was 71 and had not been inside his own tower in 4 years. He sat with his reading glasses folded on top of a stack of papers he had not opened. His housegirl knocked. "Sir, your food." "Leave it." "You said that at 6. "And I am saying it at 9. She left it. He watched the small gray figure carry a bucket across the floor and set it down, and pick it up again. He had promised he would not do this. They had sat in this same room in November, the 2 of them, and she had put her terms down like a person who had learned bargaining from a market woman. 7 months, her mother's name, no calls, no visits, no cameras. "And what do you get from this?" he had asked. "An answer." "You can't answer it. You're the owner." She stood up. Owners never know what their building does when they leave the room. "And if I say no? Then I go back to London, and you give the company to a man in a suit, and neither of us will ever know." He had said yes. And then, in the second week, he had turned this screen on, and he had not turned it off since. There was a board paper on the table with a date on it, the 7th of September. Name a successor, or the board would name one for him. There was another paper under it, from a hospital in Ikeja, which he had read once and put at the bottom. "Naoma," he said to the empty room. "She sits like you." He was not a good man because he was watching. Watching costs nothing. He was watching because he had lived 52 years without ever once knowing what his own building did to people who could not fight it. And now, at 71, with September coming, he had finally become afraid of the answer. Mr. Chukwubuikem Anosike ran the 8th floor from a glass office with the blinds always half down. He was 48, navy suit, silver wristwatch, ID card on a lanyard he never needed to show anyone. He sent 120,000 naira to his mother in Nnewi on the 28th of every month without fail for 11 years. He paid school fees for a boy at his old secondary school in Nnewi and had never told anybody about it, not even the boy. I tell you that so you understand him, not to excuse him. Men are not one thing. Anosike Facility Support Limited invoiced Nwachinemelu Group 95,000 naira per cleaner per month. Each cleaner was paid 38,000 naira. He kept the difference, and he kept the difference 34 times over, and he had been keeping it for 26 months. He also kept a fine book. Section abandonment, 5,000 naira. Unauthorized talking, 2,000 naira. Wet uniform, 2,500 naira. In the rainy season, the wet uniform fine alone brought in more than a cleaner's salary. Twice a month, he had the women stand outside in a line for uniform inspection. On the 3rd Monday in June, he did it in the rain. Staff walked past that line under umbrellas. Some of them looked. A young man in a blue shirt stopped and half turned, and then his friend touched his arm and they both kept walking. 34 women stood in the rain for 19 minutes, and every one of them was fined 2,500 naira for a wet uniform. Nobody helped them. One woman came out with a bucket and turned it upside down so Ihuoma could sit. On the last Friday of June, Anosike called Ihuoma into the glass office and did not offer her a chair. "You are the one who fixed the boardroom carpet." "The carpet was fine, sir." "The carpet was destroyed, and then it was fine." He leaned back. 3 nights. Nobody signed you in. Do you think I don't know my own floor?" She said nothing. "I want to give you something." He wrote a figure on a pad and turned it around. 20,000 naira. Monthly, on top. For what work? For information. He capped the pen. Who talks? Who is pregnant? Who is too old and doesn't know it yet? And the fines, my 5,000? Gone, today. He smiled with only his mouth. And in 6 months, you are supervising and Enkem is resting. She has rested enough. 20,000 naira, every month. The boots in 1 week instead of 5 months. Sir? Speak. No. The words sat in the room. Say that again. No, sir. I won't do it. The door was open. 3 people in the corridor heard her say it, and one of them was Amarachi, who looked away. Then Anosike laughed. It went on too long, the way it does with men who are performing for themselves. Night shift, he said, when he was finished. And from Monday, you will take Section 4 with Section 7. Same money. Yes, sir. And the wet season allowance is canceled for everybody. Yes, sir. She got as far as the door. Okoli, sir, you had a chance to be somebody in this building. That night, she started the notebook. Not to report him, not yet. To count. Payslips, 34 names, month by month, copied by hand in a storeroom at 2 in the morning with a torch in her teeth. 95,000 billed, 38,000 paid, 57,000 missing, times 34, times 26. She added the column in her head before she added it on paper, because that was the one thing she had always been able to do. Just over 50 million naira. She sat back on the flattened carton and looked at the figure for a long time. Was 50 million a crime or a business? Who exactly would she take this to in a building where the man who signed the fines also signed the contracts? He was counting 34 women. He should have been counting 35. 2 floors up, in an office at the end of the HR corridor, Mrs. Ibele Okere had a drawer she kept locked. Inside it, 2 years of real payslips. She had never done anything with them. Fear is not a dramatic thing. It is mostly just Tuesdays. Her younger sister had cleaned a bank on Awolowo Road in 2017 and had been fined out of the job in 5 months, and Ibele had sent her money for 2 years afterwards and had never once said the word "find out" loud in her own house. On the last Wednesday of July, Anosike came to her office. The old outsourcing files, 2023-2024. What about them? Shred them. Audit is coming in September. They will only confuse people. Mrs. Ibele Okere looked at her keyboard. Then she looked at him. "Bring me a memo with a signature," she said, "and I will shred whatever the memo says." He stood there for 11 seconds. Then he laughed and left because he was sure she was only being difficult, and difficult women eventually get tired. She did not shred them. She did not report them either. She just sat with the drawer locked and her hand flat on the desk and thought about her sister. That is not courage, but it is where courage starts. 2 things almost ended everything in August. The first was Mrs. Ibele Okere herself. Going through the outsourcing list, she saw the name Okoli, and beside it, in the emergency contact box, an address in London. She stopped. She looked at it. Then she typed a small note in the margin. Probable data entry error. Applicant used former employer address. Because who in this world puts a London address on a form to clean toilets for 38,000 naira? Nobody. So it was a typo, and she moved on. And the file closed. The second was the portrait. There is a painted portrait in the ground floor lobby. Chief Nwachine Melu, at 40, in a brown agbada, standing in front of a shop nobody in the building recognizes. Ihuama was polishing the frame's base when a client waiting for the lift said, "You are taking your time with that one."
"It's a good frame, sir. You people always know which one is the boss." He laughed and went into the lift. He was standing 2 feet from a woman with her father's eyebrows, and he did not see it. Nobody compares a portrait of a rich man at 40 with a girl on her knees with a rag. The eye refuses. It is not a mystery, it is just how people are built. There was a third, smaller one. Kelechi at the gate saw a car drop her at Chevron Roundabout one Sunday evening. Not a taxi, a clean grey car with tinted glass. "Big man dropped you." "Bolt," she said. "Bolt does not have that kind of car. Bolt Comfort." He accepted it instantly because nobody in the history of Lagos has ever lied about a Bolt. And so the whole thing held, not because she was clever, because a cleaner is the most invisible person in any building in this country, and she had chosen the one disguise that nobody in that tower would ever bother to look behind. Now, the 19th of August, 2:45 in the afternoon. Anosike came out of the glass office with a black nylon bag and a security man behind him, and he put the bag down on the wet floor that Ihuama had mopped 9 minutes earlier. Ifeoma's things, a cardigan, a comb, a plastic cup, and her clinic card from St. Gerard's, which went into the water and started to darken at the corner. "Kneel," he said. "Sir? There was a client on this floor at 11 o'clock and you were crying in the corridor. Kneel and apologize to this floor." 41 desks, 41 people. A woman in the second row put her headphones on. A man stood up and looked at the lift and sat back down. Somebody's phone rang and they killed it fast so as not to be noticing. Nobody moved. Nobody. Ifelma began to lower herself onto the wet tile, 8 months heavy, with one hand out for balance. And a hand caught her elbow and lifted her back up. "She won't kneel," Ihuoma said. "Move." "She's carrying a child, sir, and the floor is wet, and I'm the one who made it wet." "I said move." Ihuoma bent, picked the clinic card out of the water, and shook it once. Then she said it, not loudly. The corridor was quiet enough that loud was not required. "You bill this company 95,000 naira for her. You pay her 38. The floor heard the number. You could feel it land, the way you feel a door open behind you. Anosike's hand came up. He had raised it once before in April at a man in the car park, and he had lowered it, and he had gone home and sat in his car for 20 minutes. This time he did not lower it. One sound, flat and short, and over immediately. The mop handle hit the tiles and rolled until it stopped against a chair leg. 41 people, not one, stood. The clock on the wall said 2:47. 9 floors below, Kelechi was already being told to lock a gate from the inside, which in 11 years nobody had ever asked him to do. Ihuoma bent down. She picked the mop. She stood up straight, and she put the clinic card in Ifelma's hand, and she closed Ifelma's fingers over it. Then she looked at Anosike. "My mother used to say something," she said. "A floor is only dirty until somebody kneels for it." Her voice did not shake. That is the part people talked about afterwards. "I chose to kneel," she said. "You made her." Somewhere in Ikoyi, a chair scraped back from a desk. The fire doors opened at 8 minutes past 3. Not for fire. They opened because somebody outside the building had been given a code that only 4 people had and had used it and had not stopped walking. 6 men in dark suits, then 2 more, then a woman with a folder held against her chest like a shield. They came onto the 8th floor and they did not go to the glass office. They stood aside, and Chief Ndugusi Nwachinemelu walked out of the lift onto the 8th floor of his own building for the first time in 4 years with a walking stick he clearly hated. And he did not look at Mr. Anosike at all. He looked at his daughter's shoes, at the canvas, at the sides eaten open by floor chemical, at the way she was standing on the outside edges of her feet without knowing she was doing it. And this man, who had built 14 floors out of a 2-room tile shop, put his hand over his mouth. Anosike said, "Sir, good afternoon, sir. There has been a small—" Nobody was listening to him. "Ihuoma," the chief said. The floor did not understand the word. It was not a name anyone there had heard. Mrs. Okereke had come up with the woman holding the folder. She looked at the file in her own hands and then at the girl with the mop, and she said very quietly, "London, it wasn't a typo."
Mama Nkem was in the stairwell doorway with Barrister in one hand. She said, "Chineke." Just that. And then she sat down on the top step. Uncle Emeka pushed past 2 men in suits and stopped, and took off his new glasses and cleaned them on his shirt and put them back on. "Her mouth," he said. "It was her mouth. I said it in April, and she told me all Anambra girls." And then he could not finish. Amarachi, at the back, put both hands flat over her mouth and did not take them down. Kelechi, from the gate, who had no business on the 8th floor and had come up anyway, said, "She told me it was a bolt." Ifeoma said nothing at all. She held her wet clinic card against her chest with both hands and looked at Ihuoma as if seeing her arrive from somewhere very far away. And Anosike kept talking for 11 more seconds. That is the detail I want you to keep. 11 seconds into a room where every single person had already stopped hearing him. about a client and a corridor and standards. Then he looked at his own hand. "Sir," Ihuoma turned to her father, "you promised you wouldn't watch." "I lied. Every night for 7 months." "Then you saw everything." "I saw everything." He was crying and not attending to it. "Ihuoma, before God, I did not know." "You didn't ask. That's not the same as not knowing." And here is the thing that reframed all of it. That bench on the archive room, the one with NO scratched underneath, was carried out of the back door of a tile shop on Uejalega Road in 1994 by a girl who swept that office for 3 years, Neneoma Okoli, who married the man who owned the shop, who never once in her life told her daughter that anybody in that place had shown her kindness, because nobody ever had. Ihuoma had not come to test strangers. She had come to find out whether the building her mother knelt in had learned anything in 32 years. Now she knew, and so did everybody standing on that floor. The notebook opened on the boardroom table at 4:10. Not a speech, arithmetic. 34 women, 95,000 billed, 38,000 paid, 57,000 a month each, 26 months. 50,388,000, said the woman with the folder. "And the fines," Mrs. Okadeke said. She put the drawer's contents on the table in a rubber band. 2 years. I kept them." The chief looked at her. "Why did you keep them and say nothing?" "Because I have a sister, and I was afraid. Both of those things are true." Restitution was paid in the reception hall on Thursday. Cash in envelopes at a folding table set on the marble floor that Ihuoma had polished herself that same morning, out of habit, at 6. 34 names called out one after another. Mama Nkems counted hers twice. Then she put it down on the table and pressed both hands over her face and stood there while the woman behind her waited, and nobody in that hall hurried her. Uncle Emeka's 19 years were counted properly for the first time and his pension recalculated. He took the letter, folded it, and put it in his shirt pocket, in exactly the place where he had once banked 100 naira for a bollard's suffering. Ifeoma's clinic card was dried on a radiator in HR and handed back to her flat and readable. The company paid St. Gerard's for the delivery and for 6 months after it. And Mr. Anosike? His contract was terminated on Thursday morning, and the file went where such files go. He signed a repayment agreement over 4 years, and his company was struck from every list the group keeps. That is all. The camera does not follow him. He walked out through reception at 9:40 in the morning, and I'm not going to describe his face, because he is not what this story is about, and because 34 women were standing in that hall on Thursday afternoon, holding envelopes. And they are. There is one thread I have to leave open, and I am leaving it open on purpose. Amarachi resigned by text message at 4:10 on the day of the slap, before anyone could reach her, before the envelopes. She was reception staff on a different contract, under a different vendor, so her name was not on the outsourcing list at all. No file, no deductions to trace, no number anybody could put in an envelope for her. Ihuoma called her twice, once on the Friday and once 3 weeks later. It rang out both times. Nobody in that building ever found out what she was afraid of or who had made her afraid, and she does not appear in this story again. Some people are not villains. They just look away at the wrong moment, and then they cannot bear to be looked at, and they go. 6 weeks later, on the 7th of September, Ihuma Nuachi-Nemelu took the board seat. She kept one thing from before, the 8th floor corner camera, the one the maintenance file said was broken. She had it repointed at the storeroom door and put the monitor in her office, And it is the only screen in that room. Not to watch anybody, to remember what a floor looks like from underneath. There were no more fines. The cleaners came onto the company's own payroll at $95,000, which was the number the company had been paying all along, and Mama Nkem became the one who signed for them. On her second day, Mama Nkem came into the office with a black nylon bag and put it on the desk. "Open it." Boots, rubber, Ladipo, size 38. 6,500, Mama Nkem said. 34 of us, 200 naira each, some gave 50. Ihuoma did not touch them yet. When? That morning. Which morning? That morning, Mama Nkem folded her arms. We bought them before lunch, before all of this. We only knew you as the girl walking on the side of her feet. And that is the whole story, really. That is the entire thing. They bought the boots when she was nobody. The bench came up out of the archive room in October. It stands in the ground floor lobby now, beside the painted portrait of a man at 40 in a brown Igbada, and there is a small brass plate on the wall behind it with a cleaner's name on it in the place where a founder's name usually goes. Naoma Okoli, 1994. Her father comes to the lobby on Fridays and sits on it, which the doctors do not love, and which he does anyway. And at 6:10 on the first morning of the new year, in an empty building, Ihuoma sat down on that bench in her rubber boots and put her palm flat on the wood, on the left side, where the dip is. She sat there a long time. The glass went from gray to gold. Then Keleiichi opened the gate, and the day started. Here is what I take from it, and then I will let you go. We keep waiting for the moment when goodness gets paid, as if the payment is the point. But look again at that nylon bag. 34 women, 200 naira each for a girl they thought was nobody. Goodness was already being paid, in a storeroom, by people with nothing, weeks before anybody powerful walked through a fire door. All the men in suits did was arrive late and agree. So let me ask you the hard one, the real one from this story. Ebele Okere locked those payslips in a drawer for 2 years and did nothing because she was afraid and because she had a sister to send money to. Then she refused to shred them. Was that woman a coward who got lucky, or the only reason any of it could be proven at all? Tell me in the comments, and be honest, because most of us are standing exactly where she was standing. If this one held you, press like, share it with somebody who is doing quiet work that nobody is thanking them for, and subscribe so the next story finds you. Thank you for staying to the end with me. Walk gently today. Somebody around you is standing on the outside edges of their feet, and you are close enough to see it.